broadcast and get going that
The recording has started, and somebody's phone continues to go off, so they may want to mute that.
Okay, thanks. We'll take care of that. Yeah, so we can just go ahead and I mean, I feel like a small crowd tonight. I feel like we're pretty well familiar with everyone, but we can still go through and do our introductions. So, John, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. John Kubicki, citizen at large.
Chris Millerhoff, Hillsborough County Community and Infrastructure Planning.
Sally Thompson, citizen at large.
Brandon Middleton, citizen at large.
Jim
Sharp, member at large.
Tim Horst, was citizen at large, now I'm St. Tampa, so.
Ben Gordon, I'm TPS staff, non-member facilitator.
Where are you going?
Yes, yeah, perfect timing.
Katrina Corcoran, I'm the planning commission rep.
David Ellsworth, member at large. David Slutty, citizen at large.
Abigail Lars, Hillsborough County Engineering.
Dan Rodriguez, project manager, department. All right, thanks everyone. Gail, did you get that sufficiently, or do you want to still do your roll call?
Well, we should still do roll call because you have a significant representation virtual tonight.
True. Yeah, I guess while we're on it, is anyone online? If you'd like to do an introduction, now is your time to do so. All right.
Hello, Peter Davitt, member at large.
Hey everybody, Austin Britt, City of Tampa.
Ed Newsom, citizen at large.
Julian Anderson, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
Brenton Mosier, USF, alternate for Jason Jackman.
Joel Yap, the Department of Health.
All right, hearing no other.
Faye Miller, I believe, is also online.
Okay. All right, Gail, I'll turn it over to you to nail down your roll call.
Okay, Tim Horst.
Here.
Jim Shirk.
Here.
Katrina Corcoran.
Here.
Christopher Fellerhoff.
Here.
Abigail Flores.
She's here.
Corporal Anderson.
Here.
Joel Yap.
Here.
Elaine Watson.
Here.
In person, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Brent Buffington.
Here virtually.
Frank Koffenauer.
Here virtually.
Daniel Rodriguez.
Here.
Brenton Mosier.
Here.
Jonathan Forbes. Peter Davitt.
Virtually.
David Aylesworth.
Here.
John Kubicki.
Here.
Faye Miller. I know I have her online. Brandon Littleton.
Here.
Virtual or in person?
In person.
Thank you. Mike Disco. I have a phone number. Mike, is that you? I believe they're unmuted. Okay. Sally Thompson.
Here in person.
Edward Newsom.
Here virtual.
And David Saludi.
Here.
You do have an in-person quorum.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Gail. So we can go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, which is public comment. I don't see anyone in the audience here tonight, but is there anyone virtually that would like to give public comment?
I'm supposed to do under members' interest, right?
Yeah, we'll do members if there's something you want to discuss. All right, well, hearing none, we can go ahead and move on to the members' interests and future topic requests.
My members' interest, if this is appropriate, is if you go back to the last meeting to the topic that was action item Gulf Coast Corner. I wasn't here for that meeting because I was at the Florida Greenways and Trails Council meeting. Beth Alden and I went, and we both spoke in favor of the Gulf Coast Trail. We both got up and spoke. As indicated here, the first two, number 1 and 2, have already been committed with funds, and so we were really starting at number 3. And we came out along those lines. Number 2, which was really, really good. These top 4, and the one that was ahead of us, are part of what closing the gaps that the Florida Greenways and Trails Foundation was working on 10 years ago. So it was very fulfilling that, and the Gulf Coast Trail, a couple of years, 2 years ago now, I think, Trust for Public Land hired a former county commissioner, Charles Hines, who's been spearheading this effort all up and down the coast. So we were really, really overjoyed to be number 4, which is like number 2. And if anybody's really interested in what's happening I manage the Florida Greenways and Trails Foundation Facebook page. So Ned Bear, who's our president now, sends me stuff at 4 a.m. at whatever. It's like, be careful what you wish for, because we had very little presence. And then he called me about 8 or 9 months ago and said, I understand you manage that page. I said, yeah. He said, would you be willing to put more stuff? I said, fine. But I didn't realize my watch would go off or whatever. But things are really happening. So it was kind of exciting. I don't know if anybody has wants to say. So a letter is not needed at this point. Is that enough?
I was like, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for Sally? Okay. Any other members' interests?
Yeah. Something you'd like me to say, so.
Yes.
I just want to make a tentative announcement that the Hillsborough County Greenways and Trails Master Plan update is now largely complete, and it is in attorney review, and our goal is to have it on the agenda for the May 15th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, and hope to gain their approval of the document, I believe is the wording of the request. So if any of you are interested in weighing in on that at this final approval, I'll let Ben know if we get on the agenda officially, and if you're on my Greenways mailing list, I'll also put out that. But I don't think they're going to have many people speak in favor of it at the time it's on the agenda, but there would be public comment before that meeting if any of you are interested in expressing support or other feelings about it at that time. That's when we think it will be. So hopefully by the time we have our next meeting here, it'll be a done deal.
And can I just add, Sally, that this is part of the Gulf Coast Corridor, so it's an integral part, and it's really important that Hillsborough County be included.
I have one item I'd like to bring to the group's attention and discuss. So the county right now, I don't know if you've seen on their social media sites, but they're in the process of doing a resurfacing project on Swan Avenue from Bayshore Boulevard to South Boulevard. It's like a 2-block section that was originally scoped to connect the gap in bicycle lanes from Bayshore Boulevard to where they begin now, presently on South Boulevard. And that project was going forward, as you can see on their social media. But it's since, we'll say, it's not going to go forward anymore due to political reasons. So now is the very short window where, public and citizen input is needed, or there's an opportunity specifically if you want that to happen, then you would have to make your voice known to City Council and to your representatives. Otherwise, they're going to put parking. It's likely that parking will be reinstalled in the reinstallation of sharrows will be the thing.
So there won't be a bike lane, in other words. That's what you were hoping for.
That is what the mobility department designed and planned and what was intended to be installed, but it didn't get the political support it needed. So.
I'm sorry, where's the decision being made? At city council? You said the county to start, then you said city council.
It's within the city, right?
Okay.
It's
Because the
Is it a
road's,
county road?
the road's been paved.
It's a city road.
Okay.
The road has been paved, the lines have been put in there, but there's no bike lane markings. And we're gonna likely remove those existing markings or just not stripe it as a bike lane, one of the two. So I will, yeah, I don't know if that's something we could
But it's not
address.
striped at a bike lane past Boulevard.
It's striped as a bike lane from South Boulevard through Hyde Park Village, and it ends just west of Hyde Park Village.
So
it's
they,
a marked bike lane.
so the idea is to make sure not to do that. People are parking on it.
Yeah, so there was parking there.
No, but I mean, between, I don't want to dwell on this, between,
Yeah,
between Boulevard and.
There's a bike lane with
Yeah,
parking.
right.
With parking.
Right, okay, that's what I got
Yeah,
confused.
west of Boulevard.
Yeah,
yeah, west of Boulevard. But east of Boulevard, there's not enough room for that configuration.
because
to have
it's not as
both.
wide.
So it's either one or the other.
Gotcha.
And right now, it's gonna go back to the parking is the thing. So if you wanna send emails to your local representatives, now's the time. So just wanna pass it along. All right. Anything else, members' interest?
One thing I would add is that, I mean, it kind of looks like that parking is not metered, unlike most of the area, which is metered. I don't know if that's a point, but it's just kind of interesting.
The parking division hasn't gotten there yet. They're gonna try to meter Tampa Heights neighborhood first, and then they probably move into there in future years. But yeah, a lot of it is people parking there for access to Recreation Boulevard in the evenings, and then, the businesses during the day, kind of thing, so.
So they're not putting the bike lane in so people can drive into the neighborhood and ride the bikes up and down Patient and have a place to park when they do that.
I think the main, yeah.
And they're really gonna be unhappy when it gets metered.
Yeah, that was kind of.
That'll be
And I know metering is coming.
Yeah.
It'd be a shame to do that and then nobody parks in it as soon as they meter it.
Well, then
The city
the bike
was
lane, right?
going to open up parking on Magnolia, and then, as a way to move the parking rather than just eliminate it, but that was deemed not satisfactory. So, yeah. All right, anybody else? Okay. All right. Okay, so we can move on here to the approval of minutes, March 27th.
I wanted to mention a couple of typos, Sally Thompson.
Okay.
The next meeting will be March 27th. If you go to the second page under old business and new business,
Okay.
today, that was last month, it just wasn't carried over.
Oh, okay. I guess that'd be for Ben.
Pardon?
I'm looking for it. Can you,
Under old business and new business, the next meeting is March 27th. That meeting where the minutes are for
That
March
was
27th. So it should say today. That's
yeah, we should probably just amend that to,
that's an easy thing to, I always see these things, except when they're mine, I don't see it.
Yeah, that's
Somebody
exactly.
says, oh, you didn't do that.
All right. minutes.
Is that your only typo?
That's all I know, and I wasn't here.
You said typos plural. so-
Jim Sharp, I move we approve the minutes as amended.
Thank you, Jim.
Katrina Corcoran, second.
I could have changed that.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And are there any opposed? All right, hearing none, the motion passes. And we can go on and move on to the next item, would be the status reports. So is there any order that you'd like to do? Or is the order presented good, Ben?
Are you ready to go, Wayne?
Absolutely.
Awesome, thank you.
Good to see everybody.
We don't see
We can't see you, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you could. I guess when I shared, it went away.
Good to see you, Wade.
There we go. Well, I'm here to present the 2050 needs assessment for major projects for the LRTP. This is the performance data on those projects that are newly evaluated. So the objective of this assessment is to update the 2050 plan with any new projects that are proposed by any of the jurisdictions or in the FDOT various work programs. Look at the performance in the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Model and rank those projects, apply costs to them, and then look at a cost-benefit ratio on those projects. So these consist of a few different project types: managed lanes, major interchanges, capacity projects that would be widening of major roadways, and premium transit options. So the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Model looks at a number of factors. So we're looking at population and employment data forecast out to 2050. That comes from all the counties, and it's not, and in fact, our demographer with the Planning Commission provides Hillsborough County's data to feed into the model on that, looking out to 2050. We apply those to the various traffic analysis zones and then determine the number of trips from those employment and population figures between those zones and apply those to either a roadway share, a transit share, and look at how those perform on the predicted roadway network as it exists today and with these various projects. So we looked at about 22 separate projects in this. All of the green lines on this map are transit projects. Notably, we have one that uses the CSX rail from Bradenton to Brooksville. That is a request from the Regional Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance. Managed lanes on I-275 from the Howard Franklin Bridge to downtown, and then on I-4 from downtown to the Polk County line, I-75 from Pasco County all the way down to Manatee County. And then we have a couple of other proposals, Gandy Boulevard managed lanes, which would be additional capacity on the bridge from the Tampa side feeding into Pinellas, and US 301 potentially putting elevated lanes on that all the way down to Big Bend Road. There are also a few county road widenings in here. County Road 672, State Road 60 all the way out to the Polk County line from 4 to 6 lanes. County Road 39 south of State Road 60, Lithia Pinecrest, I-275 from Hillsborough to Bears, US 92 near the Polk County line, and the Suncoast Parkway from around Van Dyke Road until, I believe, State Road 52 in Polk County. We separated these projects into several different scenarios to separate their impacts geographically. For example, if we included the Suncoast Parkway in it, we might include something in South County like the US 301 project so that they wouldn't have a huge impact on each other in the model. And we did 10 different model runs, and these next two slides show how they were divided up. Just as an example, I'll use Model Run 7. We looked at an arterial BRT project along 50th and 56th, an interchange at I-275 and US 41, and the I-75 managed lane south. So that would be from I-4 to the South County line. None of those projects really impact each other terribly. So that's the idea behind how you would divide them up. So the various metrics that are outputs of the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Model are these that you see. Access to jobs and person hours of delay are particularly big ones. But for the transit projects, transit ridership, and then the reliability and planning time indices, those mean basically that you can count on your commute being a certain number of minutes, a certain percentage of the time. So the top projects for person hours of delay, the I-4 managed lanes, that's 4 additional lanes from basically downtown out to the Polk County line. The I-75 managed lanes, these are the southern ones performed highest. The US 301 managed lanes on an elevated deck, those performed very high as well. Then I-275 managed lanes between downtown and the Howard Franklin, I-75 from I-4 to the Pasco County line, the Lithia Pinecrest widening, State Road 60 widening out to Polk County, and I-275 widening from Bears to Hillsborough. The ones that are not FDOT projects on this list are probably particularly important to pay attention to. The FDOT projects and the potential THIA project all largely have funding. The only one, the highest performing one on this list out of those projects is Lithia Pinecrest, which would be subject to county funding and not state funding. Moving on, access to jobs. So for the roadway projects, the Suncoast Parkway widening out from Van Dyke Road to the Pasco County line performed highest in this case. That may be because of a huge commuter share coming in from there, but also the 2050 data with the build out of the Moffett campus up along the Suncoast Parkway in Pasco County impacts that somewhat. We're still looking at sort of what those impacts are. But moving on from there, State Road 60, an interchange, a new interchange at I-75 and US 301 or reconstruction. The US 301 elevated lanes project, and then I-75 from I-4 to Manatee County managed lanes. In transit projects, the BRT from basically Brandon to USF, Metro Rapid was the highest performing, followed by that regional rail project I mentioned earlier, and then the South Tampa rail project, which is part of the city's RIA grant that is going to set up an office. That would be along the CSX corridor down along the Summit Expressway through South Tampa. So the overall project rankings, most of these I've mentioned so far, but as far as the non-state roads, Lithia Pinecrest ranked number 2. The South Tampa rail project I just mentioned ranked number 8, and number 1 overall among the transit projects. County Road 39 right behind that at number 9, the Brandon Metro Rapid behind that. And then the airport to downtown transit rail or streetcar project was the 3rd highest ranking transit project there. I won't go through the entire list here, but those are the cumulative outputs based on all of the metrics I mentioned. So then we went through and established costs for all those projects. Some of those come from PD&Es. They're in current dollar values. Some of them are based on just long-range planning for facility types. And there is a great deal of variability in those estimates. Just to mention a few high dollar ones, the I-4 managed lanes coming in at $355 million, Lithia Pinecrest based on the PD&E out there at $200 million, I-75 managed lanes, $147 million. We have some the 275 managed lanes from the downtown to West Shore interchange are about 1.2 billion. And anyway, needless to say, there are some large numbers in here that will be, some of which are funded and some of which will be whittled down as a result of this process. We've then applied the metrics from these to the costs and come up with some top projects based on a cost benefit assessments. So these are based on $1 million of project costs, person hours saved per 1 million of project costs. So this is how it comes out. The I-4 managed lanes and I-75 South managed lanes continue to perform the highest, followed by the Suncoast Parkway widening from Van Dyke North, State Road 60, County Road 39, I-275, Lithia Pinecrest, I-75, and US 92. But there is the difference from the highest of these with 157.1 to the lowest 6.7 is a great deal. And there's some pretty clear judgment points you might say in here. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We are planning to take this to committees and board for action next month. And one just thing to mention is that these are in addition to several projects that are in the 2045 long-range transportation plan that have not yet been constructed, that these projects will also be weighed against in moving towards the cost feasible plan. Those projects in the 2045 plan were based on a much higher fiscal scenario with the surtax included. And so there will be a lot of projects and a lower pot of money moving into the cost feasible plan late this summer and fall. So happy to answer any questions or take any feedback you might have.
Anybody? Anybody online? All right, well, hearing none, thank you so much, Wade.
Well, thank you. Talk to y'all soon.
All right, we can go ahead and go on to the next presentation we've got, which is the Community Air Monitoring Network. And the TPO staff member, Lizzie Baker, is going to do that presentation.
Can everyone see my screen? Can you see the?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Barely hear.
You said you can't hear me?
Now we can. Now I
Okay.
can.
My name is Lizzie Baker. I'm Plan Hillsborough staff, and I will be presenting to you this evening on the Community Air Monitoring Network. For this project, we're working with the University of South Florida, the Environmental Protection Commission of Hillsborough County, and a lot of different community organizations to install low-cost air quality monitors along the interstates in underserved communities. And this actually is, it started out as a pilot study in 2021 based on the suggestion of the TPO's Technical Advisory Committee. And then at the same time, we were hearing concerns expressed from the community about air pollution near the interstates. So based on that, we applied for and received a grant from Federal Highway to conduct a pilot study. And during that pilot study, we tested low-cost air quality monitors and the data that they produced, and also analyzed that data. We engaged the community in air monitoring efforts. We established pilot community air monitoring sites and also shared the data publicly. And then we also developed methods to establish a community air monitoring network, a much larger one. And during that pilot study, USF identified the Purple Air Monitor and the Clarity Node S monitor, which you can see on the screen as the most suitable monitors for community air monitoring. We also established 7 community air monitoring sites. Those are the red markers on the map that you can see. And then USF and EPC work together to co-locate or place together the low-cost air quality monitors at 2 of the EPC regulatory sites for testing and calibration or data correction. And then based on the success of the pilot study, we applied for and received additional funding from the EPA and Federal Highway to expand the pilot study and develop a larger community air monitoring network. And so this project is fully funded by those grants. And so between 2023 and 2026, we will be establishing approximately 20 to 25 additional community sites along the interstates. We'll evaluate the data and the pollutant concentrations over a much longer period of time. And then we'll also be building capacity within the community around air pollution, air monitoring, and how the built environment plays a role. I went into a little bit about how this came about, but why are we doing this? Ultimately, we are working towards building community capacity around air pollution and air monitoring. We also want to be able to characterize and continually monitor localized air quality in the community where people spend their time, so where they live, learn, work, and play. We also want to use the local air monitoring data to help inform transportation and land use planning and decision-making processes. And then in addition to that, we want to equitably improve air quality, meaning that communities are not disproportionately affected by traffic-related air pollution. And then lastly, we want to better understand low-cost air monitors so we can learn how to most effectively complement the regulatory air monitors. So these are kind of the long-term goals of the project team, and all of these can be informed and achieved by a community air monitoring network. So this is the general timeline of between March of 2023 and March of 2026 when the EPA grant timeline ends. So we'll kind of focus on today on where we're at now, but in that December to May timeline. So right now, in this time frame, we just had our first coalition meeting on April 18th. And then we're also in the process of identifying additional sites. So we'll identify about 8 to 12 of the community air monitoring sites. And that will also be informed by a public survey that will be going out in the spring. And in addition to that, we have been developing a guidebook. So this actually serves as a reference for the community and for the community sites. And we've also been working with Hillsborough County Public Schools to bring community air monitoring activities and education to the students. So a big part of this project is community collaboration and engagement, because we really want residents to, 1, gain an understanding of air quality, but 2, it's also really important because the community sites couldn't exist without it. So community engagement is ingrained throughout the site selection process. And what you see on the screen here is that multi-step approach that we take. So the first step is we identify and prioritize the areas where we want to focus community air monitoring efforts. After that, we explore potential sites within the communities that we've identified. And then we'll also get suggestions from the community and stakeholders. After that, we confirm the sites, go out and conduct field visits. And then lastly, we sign agreements and the monitors and the signage are installed at the site. So right now we are exploring the potential community sites, and we are also in the process of the engagement with the community. So this takes a little bit of a closer look at the first 2 steps in that site selection process. which are to identify the areas and prioritize and explore the sites. And that's actually informed by two criteria, the community selection criteria and the site selection criteria. So in order to narrow down the areas, we use the community selection criteria, and this comes from the EPA's EJ Screen tool, the TPO's Non-Discrimination and Equity Plan, modeling and research, as well as input from the community. So there are three main factors within this criteria, and the first one is the environmental factor, which is the proximity to the interstate or those areas most impacted by traffic-related air pollution due to proximity. We also look at demographic factors, the primary ones being low-income populations and communities with the majority of people of color. And then based on feedback that we received during the kickoff study, we actually added some additional factors, demographic factors, which you can see on the screen. And then lastly, the, oops, sorry about that. Lastly, the third factor within this criteria are opportunities for community access and engagement. So once we go through that criteria, we've narrowed down the areas. Then we go on to the site selection criteria to help us prioritize and explore potential sites for community air monitoring. And this is based on community access and engagement. Again, we're looking at this, but more specifically, using it to narrow down the sites. So is this really an area where people congregate and spend their time? And then we also look at the proximity to the interstate again, but more specifically, we're looking at locations within 1,000 feet of the interstate. There are a handful of sites that will be located farther than 3,000 feet in proximity to the near road community air monitoring sites, and those will be used for comparison purposes. And then in addition to that, we determine whether or not the organization or the entity is really interested in being involved in this project long term. And we also have EPA has some logistical considerations that we look at. For example, does the site have access to power and Wi-Fi? Or if it's a solar powered monitor, then is there sun for the duration that it needs? And then based on the community selection criteria, what you see are the areas that were prioritized for community air monitoring during this phase. Those are the locations that are shaded in pink on the screen. So we're currently exploring and getting input on potential community air monitoring sites within these areas. If you have any suggestions on potential sites, we'd love to hear those. I know Jim shared a location with me earlier today. So you can let me know now. If you think of anything later on, please let me know. We will have the public survey that goes out in the spring, so you'll also have the opportunity at that time to provide input. And that concludes my presentation. Just as a reminder, as I mentioned, we have the survey coming out, so please be on the lookout for that. And I am here to answer any questions. Wyatt Birchall, he's also working on the project and can help answer questions in the future. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to any questions or comments that you have.
I have a quick question. Brandon Littleton, I saw that, so you've got the comparison sites that are geographically more isolated from the interstates. How does the demographic data that you're looking at for the primary sites factor into that site selection?
That's a great question. So we're actually placing the comparison sites generally within that same community next to other near road community air monitoring sites. So it's within that same community, and so it's in proximity to it. But we also compare it against the site selection criteria.
is there existing data or other monitors for different demographics that might exist in those same geographically proximal areas to the interstate? I'm wondering if they're kind of looking at this as an environmental justice issue and how different communities are built. If you don't have comparison data from alternative sites that have different demographics, you're going to skew towards that underserved community and maybe not get as good of data.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And that's definitely something that we can look at in the next phase. So we have this phase for installing the sites, and then we'll also have another phase a year from now. So I think that that's a really great thing to think about when we get into that second phase.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to second that. That is a good point of what are you comparing it to, and like, you know, what's that difference between the two, between a community that's miles away from the interstate versus, yeah, one right on it. So,
Yeah.
Anybody else? Questions?
I have a question, Abigail Florence, Hillsborough County. So what was the community's response when you shared their air quality levels with them?
Well, all of the levels that we've seen have been below the EPA standards, the NAC standards, the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. But generally, we're still looking and comparing the data. The last time that we did the data analysis, we only had 2 months of comparison data between all of the sites. So we really haven't had a chance to evaluate what the data is telling us.
Is below the standard a good thing or a bad thing?
It is a good thing that it is below the standard. Yeah, so what we're looking at is, are there disparities between the locations? So are there hotspots where there may be higher pollutant concentrations compared to others? One thing that we did notice, and again, this is only based on 2 months of comparison data, but one thing we noticed was that all of the 3 monitors that were located at the park sites were lower than the other 4 community air monitoring site locations from the pilot study.
Lizzie, Ellen Watson from the EPC, but maybe you could tell us what pollutants those community monitors are measuring.
Yeah, so we're measuring particulate matter. Specifically, we're focusing on PM 2.5, but they collect data for PM 10 as well. And then one of the monitors, the Clarity Node S, that also measures nitrogen dioxide, NO2. The calibration equations are a little bit more challenging for NO2, so that's still in the works.
I have another question. Will you be coordinating with the Department of Public Health for disease prevention and possibly treatment in these communities?
We have someone from the Department of Health who has been involved in the project. She attended the coalition meeting, and she also was there during the kickoff meeting, and we've been working with her closely. Did I answer your question? I'm sorry, I couldn't fully hear everything.
So is the public health participating in the community outreach? Because a lot of times it complements what you're doing. You're trying to see, is it dangerous to be outside, right? And how is it impacting your quality of life with this air quality? And so to them, it might be, hey, limit your outdoor to these hours, right? So that give them a fighting chance. It might be, hey, when you visit look out for these symptoms, right? Look out for these symptoms of asthma, or these are allergies. It's not, right? And so that's where the education of the public health to the community would complement and help achieve what we're trying to achieve, which is a quality of life and long life.
Yeah.
So, are you doing that? I guess so. That's my question.
I think that's a really great point. Part of the education is about the health effects from air pollution and exposure to that. And so that has been part of the education that we've done previously, but also we're building upon that. And specifically, we're working with the USF College of Public Health, so they've been really helpful in developing those materials. But I definitely think that involving the Department of Health in developing the educational materials is a great idea. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Hearing none. Thank you so much, Lizzie. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Last presentation for the night is called the New Rules for City of Tampa Micromobility Program by Austin Britt with the City of Tampa. Hey, Austin.
Well, good afternoon or good evening, I guess now. It's not so much afternoon anymore. How are y'all?
Doing well.
All right. Let me get this shared so we can begin.
Is there a recording transcription? Well, because it blocks off.
Is it on this one?
Was that a question for me? Because I couldn't hear it.
So now it's not.
By Tyson.
Thank you.
Good call.
Thank you.
All right, if y'all will let me know when you're ready for me to begin, I will be more than happy to get started.
We're ready, Austin.
Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So hello, everybody. I'm Austin Britt from the City of Tampa's Mobility Department. Thank you for joining me today to go over the City of Tampa's Shared Micromobility Program and our upcoming expansion citywide, as well as some of the new rules that have been put in place beginning April of this year that we're still in the process of rolling out, kind of working out the kinks. So I'm going to share those with you today. And in today's presentation, I'm also going to share some information about the 3 different vendors themselves that we're working with and provide how this program is going to work really going forward. We've also got at the end of this presentation a way for you guys and the community to get involved, letting us know where you'd like to see corral locations be placed as this program is expanding kind of outside of the downtown and surrounding area, because that's really going to be the best way that we get these in locations that are going to be the most beneficial is through community input. So I'll share that with you guys a little bit later in the presentation. So first off, I'm sure you're all already aware of our 3 vendors. The one you might not be so familiar with is HellBiz. Both Lime and Spin are continuing on from our pilot program that had been going on for several years. And then HellBiz is joining us newly for the full contract version of this program beginning at the end of November of last year. They joined. So they are providing just scooters. Spin is providing both bikes and scooters, and Lime is providing just bikes. So under the City of Tampa's shared micromobility program requirements, the city has been divided into 15 different zones to help the program staff and our vendors be able to better manage vehicle deployment and distribution. All 3 of the vendors are required to install and maintain their vehicles within designated shared micromobility corrals. And all of the users of those vehicles must place all of the micromobility vehicles into one of those corrals at the end of their trip. As the program expands out citywide, our vendors are required to submit plans for these corrals within those 15 different zones. And to get more information on the 15 different zones, you can visit the website on the City of Tampa Micromobility. It's on tampa.gov. Just type in micromobility. It should take you to the website. It goes a little bit more into detail what the bounds are for the 15 different districts. So some changes that vehicle users and community members are going to notice is that starting April 1st, all of our shared micromobility vendors were required to start operating using a dock-to-dock system. What this means is that vendors are deploying vehicles only to designated corrals, and then the users of those vehicles are required to begin and end their trip within one of those corrals or be subject to out-of-hub fees, which I'll go into in a little bit. This operation method is being put in place to help us better assure that our sidewalks and other pedestrian areas remain clear of obstruction, especially for ADA compliance and things like that. We want to make sure people can get where they're going and utilizing the infrastructure that was built for them. So under this new program operation, riders of our shared micromobility vehicles will be assessed an out-of-hub fee, as I mentioned previously, when a vehicle is not returned or parked in a docking station or corral. This is, again, to just incentivize that compliance with this program to help us, because we can't be everywhere all at once, obviously, making sure that all the scooters and bikes are back where they're supposed to be. So providing this financial incentive to the individual to return their vehicle to a designated location was one of the ways that we wanted to move forward. So, like on the flip side of that, our vendors are also providing an opportunity for someone to obtain a bounty should they return an out-of-hub scooter or bike to a designated parking location. And I'll go over some of those right now. They vary based on the different companies that we have. So for Lime, excuse me, I almost said Spin. So our Lime vehicles, they're going to be charging $5 per vehicle that's left outside of a designated hub location. And then individuals can receive a $2.50 voucher bounty towards their next ride for returning these individual bikes and scooters that are left outside of a designated hub. And the information to do that, you have to sign up on their page, lime.bike/juicer. There's a short training video and things like that. And then you'll be able to take advantage of that program. For Spin, the eligible users are indicated, or eligible vehicles are indicated within the app itself, and they'll have a dollar symbol above them. And you'll receive a bounty between 50 cents and $1 for returning a Spin vehicle to a designated location. The way they've done it is they've adjusted it based on the different locations, and they've adjusted their prices accordingly. And then finally, for Hellbiz, they're going to be offering $2.50 off a ride to individuals who return out-of-hub bikes, out-of-hub scooters, and then also be charging $5 to the user who leaves the bike or, the scooter out of a designated corral. In order to ensure that all of our vendors are complying with these requirements, they're going to be each month required to submit a log of vehicles that have been assessed an out-of-hub fee. And then that is compared to a list that I have that's created and maintained by me. And we're going to make sure that the vehicles that I have that are reported out of hub match what they have that are reported out of hub, and that the fees are being accurately charged to the customer. One of the ways this is working is I was fortunate enough to have our parking enforcement officers who are around the city a lot, and will have eyes all over the streets. They're going to help with this. Our parking garage supervisors and security team is going to help with this for those parked in garages where they're not supposed to be. And then we've also been able to partner with the Tampa Downtown Partnerships Downtown Guides, and they are going to be doing passes around as they're doing their jobs, and logging those back to me so I can keep track of all of the out-of-hub vehicles and ensure that they're being charged appropriately to help us with the maintenance of this program. So next thing I want us to get into is how can you, or where are you going to see these new corrals as they're coming in online? That's another big change. But previously, as part of this pilot program, they were really allowed kind of on the sidewalks and really just anywhere that seemed convenient. With the push towards this full contract of the program, we are incentivized, or not incentivized, we're trying to put a preference on putting the corrals in an on-street location. The idea there is that if the individual begins their ride off the curb and in the street, they're more likely to continue their ride in the street, which is a safer location for the pedestrian, for the vehicle user to be riding in many scenarios. So we've identified a couple hashed areas, and if you've been downtown, you've probably seen a bunch of them that have come up. That are literally at end caps of on-street parking areas where the bikes and scooters are meant to be placed. We're also, as we move forward, expanding outside of downtown, trying to identify locations near key interest points like grocery stores, employment areas, places that people go for health treatments like their doctors, parks, and then also key transit stops that people frequent the most. So here you can see an example of what a corral location looks like, specifically in downtown in one of those hashed areas. That's on the left-hand side. And then we got a lot of questions about, well, what's going to happen in my neighborhood, let's say, where we don't necessarily have on-street parking. So then we're going to be looking at street widths and things like that. Of course, doing community outreach before any of this is put in place. But an idea that I wanted to share with everyone of a solution that could be approached with this is creating these mid-block kind of pinches that will not only support the parking of our micromobility vehicles, but they'll also serve the purpose of slowing down vehicle traffic on some of those faster or wider neighborhood streets. And then just once again, an idea of what those corrals in hashed areas look like. At the bottom, you can see some of them. There's even the opportunity for public engagement, doing murals and things like that. Underneath them, this is an example of the one on Ashley Drive in downtown. But it would be really awesome to get those out in the community and have the community impact within, or tell the community story within their community via these docking stations. And so next we're going to get into how you can help us provide recommendations for where these scooter and bike corrals should be, or where you think they would best benefit across the city of Tampa as we're getting ready to expand. So they are, we are wanting to make sure that they're put in locations that are going to see the most use and have the highest positive impact on the community themselves. Us coming in and being like, oh, there's a space here, let's put a corral here, isn't going to be successful or isn't going to be conducive to the success of this program because it might not be in a location where one, anyone is going to go to access a bike, or two, where anyone is going at the end of their trip to drop the bike off. So we want to make sure that we're engaging with the community for that. And then a QR code for this interactive web app that I'm going to be running through really quickly will help you do that and share your information and opinions with us. So the first thing you're going to do is fill out that main page. It talks about all the different components of this. If you read through it, it really walks you through how to complete the survey. It's pretty straightforward. But one of the cool things about this is that it's actually translatable into many, many different languages, just to make sure all of our community members are able to access and provide their input. You can change the language up in the top right-hand corner where it says select language. And then in order to identify a location that you want, all you have to do is click add comment, which is that blue box in the top right-hand corner of the screen. It will then prompt you to input your email address and then click submit. And then the side panel is going to open where you'll actually be able to select the type of location you're wanting to indicate the need of the corral. We tried to get as many of the most common ones as possible, but we also have an other option where the individual can dictate something like maybe they want a corral at their post office because that's where they're going to end and start trips. So we have things like that. You'll also notice this ADA accessible vehicle button. This is part of the RFP process. Our vendors had to agree that they would be providing ADA accessible vehicles as part of this program. Because again, we want to make sure as many community members as possible are able to benefit and reap the benefits of this program. And so we want to make sure that we're getting those ADA accessible vehicles to the locations of the individuals who would like to use them. And again, not just throwing them out there and be like, well, they're out, hope you can find them. We want to make sure that they're getting the use out of them. So once you've clicked add comment and you filled all that in, you've selected which type of location you want to identify. In this example, a park. You'll scroll in on the map, click it, and it will drop that pin down on the park that you would like to see a corral location at in this instance, but it could be a grocery store or anything like that. So then it also offers you the opportunity to continue adding more locations. You're not restricted to just one location to suggest. And in order to do that, you simply click the add comment button again, and you're able to just keep adding as many locations as you would like within the app itself. And one thing that I want to encourage everyone with, and as you share this out with your different groups, is that even if there is a pin that's already dropped on a place, I'm encouraging everyone to drop another one. The more pins that are in an area, let us know that there's more people that want a corral in that location. So it'll really make sure that we're putting corrals in locations. Essentially what we're going to be doing is creating a heat map with all of this. So the more points in a location, the more emphasis we're going to put at suggesting that the vendors establish a corral in that location. So if you would like to provide, and I hope that you will, input for this program, now that we're getting ready to expand it out, you are encouraged to scan this QR code or go to this URL, which I'm sure Ben will be able to send out to everybody. He has the slides, so you should be able to access it like that. But other than that, that is all I had to share today. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I have a question. This is Sally Thompson. Does that mean that we're not going to see, I live in Hyde Park, and I'm not going to see these vehicles on my sidewalks anymore? They're going to be parking where they're supposed to park?
I cannot guarantee that because it is the end user, but they are going to be penalized with a fee for not parking it.
So I can start reporting? I can start reporting if I see them?
You can get paid for it.
Yes.
What do I
Yes.
do?
Taking
How do I
back
do
for taking your pop.
I walk up to it and I write down the number or something?
Yeah, so there is a QR code on each of the bikes on the handlebars. So like I said, I am creating a list of out-of-hub vehicles that have been reported to me, and I'd be more than happy for you to send me the ones that you see down in Hyde Park that are parked
I
out of
actually
hub.
haven't seen any in the last couple of weeks, so maybe something's working. I don't know.
We're going to keep our fingers crossed that that is the case. But I mean, there's still the chance that, you know, someone leaves it out. But if you can get it reported to me, I'll give you the email to report that to. Let me know when you're ready. I can also put it in the chat. It is Micro Mobility Report at tampagov.net. And I'm going to add it in the chat here as well, so everyone, I can open it, so that everyone can also access it. Micro Mobility Report at Tampa. All right, there we go. Yeah, everyone should have that email now. It goes right to my inbox. I'll be able to do that. And I can also immediately report it to the company that there is a scooter that is blocking a sidewalk. So they'll hopefully also get taken care of faster as well.
But if we're in here in person, okay, Jesus.
You should, it would probably be helpful to have that or a QR code that's a reporting function on each device too, so you could, I mean, I imagine the QR code on there is what you use to engage the app, right? And start it.
Correct. Yeah, it's their QR code.
If everyone had a bumper sticker that said, am I in the wrong place, send an email or Zach with this QR code, that'd be cool too. Because then Sally would have to remember that by the time she walks home. It's the second time you did it.
So in the future, the reporting of non-compliant vehicles will be done through their app. Is that correct? Like you would have to create your own user account and then report it through a feature in their app, and then you would get money in the form of a currency you could use in their app for their vehicles?
Correct.
Okay. But for now, we can email you, which is fantastic.
Correct. I mean, you'll always be able to email me, but if you want the bounty, you'd have to go through there. I can't give you the bounty.
Well, I'm counting my money.
Okay, all right.
but the ones that ding them with the $5 fine is already self-reporting itself as out of hub, right?
Correct. So they should, in theory, know that the vehicle is out of place and be on their way to fix it. Will they? I can't speak to that yet, but that is the
bounty programs will lead people to those so they can get their $250.
So mine would be in the hub, but it wouldn't be.
Well, so one of them will just give you a discount on your ride if you drive it back, but the other one said that they would get a notice, the bounty hunters would get a notice of one, and then they could race each other to it.
Sally Thompson bounty.
So I have a question. Do all of these hubs have charging stations as part of them? So that'll be specific ones will have charging available?
I don't know that we currently have any that have charging. They have their batteries all off-site, and they go around when they redeploy and rebalance the scooters and change out the batteries.
And will all of the hubs be located in existing public right-of-way?
Will all of them? Some of them will still be on sidewalks, like, for example, the one at Curtis.
Hyde Park Village are on the sidewalk.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said in Hyde Park Village, if it's what I think it was, it's on the sidewalk. I don't think it's on the street.
So what we're moving to is moving them off the sidewalk, but there are some that will remain on the sidewalk, like for example, in Curtis Hickson Park, where the sidewalk is relatively wide, and there's at least 8 feet left for the individual to continue walking or utilizing the open sidewalk once the vehicle has been parked appropriately.
I was trying to figure out, you described like where they're going to be at these destinations, but is there some distribution of them through residential areas as well? So that, like you said, oh, you could suggest the post office if that's where you're going to ride, but then you've got to walk to the post office to get your scooter that you wanted to ride to the post office, right?
Oh, okay. So those were just examples. If you
Right,
want
but I'm saying if they're all at destinations, you're not going to find them at your house.
You can for other, you select other and choose a location near your house. I think home is one of the buttons. So you can choose a location near your house for a corral.
We could
start your
identify
ride.
that. I mean, as this input, you're saying people could suggest those.
Correct.
But is your final plan going to look for distribution through residential areas that are at a distance from destinations so that the people who live in those places can benefit from the system to get to the destinations that are not within walking
Correct.
distance?
Yeah, without these being in place for someone to start their trip, it doesn't make sense and it won't work. So yes.
Yeah, but if they're all at trip ends, then
You can drop them off at different destinations, so it should be closer.
So I've got a question about the parking corrals. Do all of these, both e-bikes and e-scooters, have kickstands, and they're just kind of be like kickstand and placed up there, and then just kind of in like a shared space, but not necessarily in any particular arrangement as far as e-bikes here and scooters here?
Currently, yes. I have been working with communications to create decals that I'm going to be putting in each of those zones that say e-bikes here, scooters here, just to help with deployment and the return process to keep them a little bit more organized than thrown all over the place like they currently are.
Okay, thanks.
Austin, I'm guessing the answer is no to this, but just out of curiosity, the penalty, if somebody accrues enough penalties, is there any kind of consequence, or is that just, hey, you've been charged $20 in penalty fees, so that's your consequence?
Yeah, right now that's really where it ends. That's the end of our teeth, is that they just keep being charged for each time. I would like in the future for us to be able to move to a place where like frequent offenders get suspended for X number of days before they can rent a scooter again, and like really feel that pain of not being able to utilize but we're not there yet. We just don't have, it wasn't built into the RFP or the contract before I took it over. So I'm doing the best with what I have so far.
I have a question too, Jim Sharp. Could you perhaps cope with the throwing it in the river question by making it $5 a day until it gets returned to a hub?
That would be nice, but what happens is when they hit the river, they turn off because it fries the electronics. Right? So our best bet is keeping them off the river at all, which I don't understand because it's listed as a no ride zone and they're supposed to be, adhering to that. And honestly, it would be in their best interest because if they make the river walk a no ride zone, the bike and scooter can't get close enough for the individual to throw it into the river. But I guess I don't think like a micromobility vendor because that doesn't make sense to me from an operation standpoint. But
I think the people throwing in the river are not the users.
With the bike racks, is it possible to require that the bike racks be the same ones that are scoped for the city bike racks that Downtown Partnership recently helped to identify? That way we can have a nice city with uniform bike racks, and instead of what I'm seeing here, which doesn't look too sturdy or pleasing to the eye. Is it possible that way we can have one type of bike rack around the city to get them to use the same ones that the city scopes out for public places?
Right now, I cannot dictate or mandate that they use that because it wasn't part of their RFP process and contract. But I think it would make the most sense to move forward with a consistent and sturdy bicycle parking facility that supports scooters as well.
Christina Costa, this is Jim Sharp. Christina Costa, by the way, is representing a company called Dero, D-E-R-O.
Yep.
That does a lot of that, and so she's a great resource for.
Oh yeah, I've been working with Christine for years. Very close friend of mine.
So is the city going to commit to putting some of these stations in neighborhoods? Because there could be some resistance. And then these just become fun things to do when you're downtown and not a commuter choice.
Well, I think right now, in Hyde Park Village, which is a neighborhood, there are racks and people just have to walk a couple of blocks to go. I mean, they'd have to walk a couple of blocks. I'd have to walk a couple of blocks if I was going to get one. So if you're going to object to walking a couple of blocks, you're just going to leave it in front of your house. But otherwise, you've seen it, right?
$5.
No, $2 because it's in the same zone. It's only $2.50.
No, if it's left out of the hub, it's $5. It's
okay.
Well, depending on the company, they've all got different ones, but the returning it was the $2.50. I think that was for spin.
But there's some places that wouldn't be.
Well, yeah, you're downtown and you're outside and the trendy places where it's cool to be. Yeah, but I'm talking about neighborhoods that aren't multi-development. And do you think they're going to say, yeah, sure, put it in front of my house? Right? I don't see that happening. So
you're going to have to find like a corner that's.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to put it in front of
house.
someone's house.
Park.
We're also not going to go and just throw them down because there's a lot of communities that don't like the program. And then that would cause even more angst and poor reviews towards the program if we threw down those corrals in front of their houses. That's why we're doing this community input feature where people can tell us where they would like to see those corrals for their beginning and end trips. But I also can't control, to your other question, what the individual uses it for. If it's a joyride or for actual transportation, I can't control what the individual's using it for.
Is there, just trying to think, like, times I've used them.
You've used them?
Yeah.
Wow.
But then the one trip I took cost over $10. I'm like, this is not going to replace a trip in my car for budgetary reasons. But like I had to, when they first came out, I was living in Tampa Heights and I needed to pick up a prescription at the Walgreens or the CVS at North Boulevard and MLK. And let's say you have to go someplace that's not a hub, and then you have to go in that place to conduct your transaction and then come back out. The reason that cost me so much is because, well, I didn't fully understand how to use it, but I left my session running while I went into the place, and that just added a lot more time. And then when I went back, it was $10 because I didn't quite get it, how it worked. But I'm trying to think, if you park quickly at some place that's outside the hub to do something and then you want to get back on it, you're going to get dinged. Or you're going to get dinged $5 for that kind of trip if you're not going to an approved destination.
You get $2.50 back to them back then.
You're collecting a bounty on yourself.
Yeah, and round trip tickets, round trip rides considered. So
Yeah, or if you can put it just like, if you can enter like a hold that says, I will be back in 10 minutes and they charge you double if you don't, I don't know, but something where you can do a short-term park of that out of hub spot if you are on an errand that's going to continue or return.
That would be a nice feature to have like a 15-minute, 20, 30-minute kind of window where it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how it's structured, but that would discourage me from using it, unless I had to go to a place that was, within a block of a hub, then I don't want to use it.
It's interesting. Well, that's what we're pointing out, that there's based on the city's policy, that's going to determine if it's a viable mode of alternate transportation to run an errand, like a prescription, or to go to work and then return home from work.
And if you're not gonna
These
find
kind of
one,
policies where $5 because we couldn't have parked for 5 minutes is not going to make it feasible to, for attractive alternatives to driving. But it's gonna make it fun when you're hanging out downtown or Hyde Park and you want to, drive with your friends around a little bit and leave it there.
well, and
Boom.
it's
So
gonna
those
be
would
feasible in the
policies
places with the
like-
maximum density of hubs
Yeah,
too, that are
those
based on.
policies that you're sharing with us are encouraging recreational use and not viable alternatives to transportation for getting to work or running an errand.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I would
thank you.
Yeah, like if it's, I'm trying to remember like when I lived in Seminole Heights where one might go, but I'm like, if I gotta walk more than a quarter mile to find a scooter, I'm not doing it. And if I'm back in the neighborhood 5 or 6 blocks, I'm gonna get in the car before I do that to take the scooter. I mean,
I think we can learn something too from the dash that's in channel side, because that will not, it's an Uber, but it doesn't take you door to door. If you want it, you have to walk 2 blocks that way and pick it up. Even in front, right, I won't pick it up in front of my house, walk 2 blocks that way, and I don't see a lot of people using that. So that might be look at some data, how have they been? It's been under a year, but are people using it? And are the same people using it like for a leave trip and a come home trip, or are they just downtown people, taking it from one bar to another or something?
No, that's a great suggestion. Yeah, I'll reach out to Karen, see if I can get that data.
yeah, there's gonna have to be some artificial saturation in neighborhoods somehow to make it viable.
Do we know that people are gonna use them? Well, they're not.
Well, they're not gonna use them if they can't find them close to home. But they don't wanna find 10 of them in front of their house, lying on the ground.
One in my driveway.
Also, what is the timing for rolling out the program to other neighborhoods within Tampa throughout the city?
It's going to be a very long, slow process because the permitting process through the city is slow. And so for them to issue the permits, it's going to take that time. They can only, I don't know how many they can process at once, but it's.
Sounds like they ought to address the issues we're talking about first before they start issuing.
What's the date, Austin, for we'll say, beginning or rollout of the new system?
So the concept of it started in April 1st. But we're waiting to kind of see if the vendors will even follow the rules for April before we announce we're going to go live citywide with this deadline. Because there's a lot we still have to work out with this, clearly.
Thank you. All right, anything else for Austin? All right, thank you so much, Austin. That was a very interesting presentation. All right, so now that that's concluded, we got old business and new business. Looks like we're going to discuss the DPAC July workshop discussion. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm happy to come up. All right, good evening, everyone. So you all know the deal. Every year, BPAC has our annual workshop where members, you can all discuss the topic of your choosing. It'll be anything you'd like. Ours is July 24th this year, so also a Wednesday. And yeah, we don't necessarily have to make a decision about what we're going to do today, but I just thought it would be good to get it on your radar and mull it over a little bit. A lot of you have been here much longer than I have, so I don't know, Jim, Tim, you've all been to multiple workshops, but last year, obviously, we did the top 10 ranking of sort of dangerous locations. But yeah, I guess I'll just open it up to a discussion if anybody has ideas for what they would like to do this time around.
Do you have any ideas?
Being a bicycle pedestrian advisory committee, one option would be to bike trail somewhere in Hillsborough County, and yeah, make observations about the pathway recommendations that the committee might have to improve it. We could just have an open-ended sort of discussion. Yeah.
Upper Tampa Bay Trail has convenient meeting space right there at the trailhead and on Shelby Road.
Really?
And that's a good place to ride to and from, except I don't know the status of the bridge on the northbound side, whether that's going to be, whether we can bypass that or not if we're going north. But we can always go south.
Definitely.
The bridge is disrupted there on the Upper Tampa Bay Trail.
And then you could ride up to the bridge, turn around and come back.
I could propose doing a, well, I guess one thing I'm working on at the City of Tampa is building out a network of neighborhood greenways, mapping that, working with the team to implement that. So it's like I could lead a ride that goes kind of up and down Seminole Heights, and to kind of like, or there's 2 bikeway projects. We could do like ride the route existing today, and then when the projects are completed, we could ride that same route, you know, when it's completed, to kind of see the difference. So it would be the Central Avenue Bikeway and then the Ola Avenue Bikeway projects, and they connect both at the north and at the south into like a big loop. So it'd probably be like a hour-long ride at the most.
Yeah, the only problem that I have with Ola is crossing Columbus on Ola is scary as shit.
Yeah, there'll be a number of those spots. I mean, there's no, it's you know, biking in the city, so that's the nature of it. But I do it all the time. I mean, big group, just kind of go slow, take your time. But yeah, there's more than one of those crossings too. Ola and MLK, for instance, you know. But that'd be an idea.
Yeah.
I like Central. That's because I've ridden that route. It's a nice.
Yeah, that's a better route for sure.
Yeah, there's construction now that's just south of Hammond. And so we couldn't go as far north as it's going to be, but maybe July, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, construction is going to start soon on both of those projects. So yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool. I've like reviewed the plan so I can kind of be a little tour guide and let you know what's happening roughly at each intersection. And, you know, like that's kind of a first of a kind project in the area. So I feel like we would want to continue to advocate for projects like that because that's FDOT designed and funded. So that's, yeah, a big deal that they even did something like that. So, yeah, bad idea.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, sounds like a plan. Think we can accommodate that then?
I think so. So you could propose a motion, you know, maybe you and I could coordinate the specific details, you know, after the meeting, and, you know, then just sign off on a final plan at our next meeting. How does that sound?
Shall I make a motion that we?
Sure, I appreciate that.
I move that we delegate Ben Gordon to find, to work up a project for our workshop focusing on bike boulevards, specifically Central Avenue and Ola. And give him some carte blanche to find a place for us to foregather, get things started, and then gather at the end of it to discuss what we learned.
Anybody else for a second?
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, please say aye. All right, hearing no opposition, the motion passes. We'll go forward.
Excuse me, Chair. Who seconded Jim's motion? Thank you.
All right, cool. Sounds fun.
Awesome, thank you. So this is a little off topic, but I just also, before I forget, wanted to put this on your radar. As you all may know, May is National Bike Month, and I just wanted to share that Walk Bike Tampa and Pedal Power promoters are going to have an event, sort of an annual Bike Month celebration. It's May 16th. It's at Tampa International Airport at 5:30 p.m. And it's a great chance to just sort of meet and mingle with other active transportation advocates around the county. There is an admission ticket. It's $35. But there's dinner at the event. You can just bike there. There's a group that's biking to the airport at 5 p.m. as well. But yeah, you can find the event, sign up on Walk Bike Tampa on their Facebook page. So yeah, just wanted to share that.
All right. And then, yeah, I guess I would like to add that my previous comments regarding Swan Avenue are wholly my own. And yeah, if you wish to leave an email, then I would say I would like just word it as general as you can, as far as, you know, I support the bike lane project on Swan Avenue from Bayshore Boulevard to South Boulevard. Yeah.
And you're suggesting, sorry, this is Katrina, you're suggesting reaching out to the council, your representative on the council?
Whoever your public representatives are.
Has somebody started, a group of people or something have started opposing it? Is that what it was, I mean, how would we, it was proposed and then it was stopped?
It was proposed by the city. It went through the mobility department with, this is, again, I speak as myself. It was consistent with the mayor's vision of building out a low stress bicycle network. So that was kind of the justification for it. Everyone signed off, moved forward. The window for community engagement wasn't sufficiently large given the timetable that these things had to happen, as far as, you know, it popped up on the resurfacing schedule. And, you know, it since was repaved and repainted, and then, you know, opposition came and said that, you know, put it back the way it was, basically.
And how would that, you know, how it was led or why or?
I mean, it was just.
I mean, was it somebody who decided they didn't like it and started getting people?
I believe it was business owners on the corridor.
Because that particular block has got apartments and it's more.
Yeah, it's just landowners in the area, business owners on Swan. So, as you could understand, you
And
know,
there's not, and they wouldn't have places, like an apartment or whatever, they don't even have places to park, or, I mean, the parking is really difficult there, so they.
Yeah, parking's very tight in that area.
What did you say the limits were?
From
Between
Bayshore Boulevard.
and, Boulevard.
Yeah, South Boulevard, yeah.
Just as a point of information, city commissioners that are on the TPO board include Alan Clendenin, Lynn Hurtak, and Guido Maniscalco, all of whom would be receptive to letters to pique their interest. And I think it's more than worth writing them. They're all three good people who listen to the people's voice. So
And Harry Cohen also lives in South Tampa, so.
Again,
Harry Cohen lives in South Tampa, so he might.
yeah, he's on the county, not the city.
Oh, I'm sorry. It didn't bring.
Alan Clendenin represents that area, I think. Lynn Hurtak is citywide, but Alan Clendenin represents that area.
Okay.
Guido is in West Tampa, but he's also pretty good guy about that, so I'm gonna write them all.
Okay, don't mention my name.
No. I wiped, your fingerprints are wiped off this one.
Can we give them a statement as a people?
I suppose we could put together a motion and then Ben could send something over.
Or would that tie too much back to you?
You would have to say it.
If you want to,
Right.
just speak as a citizen, I
Yeah. Great point. I mean, frankly, I'm on probation period, so easily. Maybe we'll keep it more private at this point. John, I feel like you both got great insights on these kinds of things. Yeah. Put me on the spot. I don't know. Yeah. As far as whether to do something like pass a motion.
What do we all think? I mean, do we all think it's a good idea?
I think so. Sure. Given, if there's resistance from business owners, the word hasn't gotten out yet that bike lanes actually improve retail sales. And in the stores that are adjacent to the bike lane, it's a lot easier to hop off, grab something, provided you're not buying a car. I mean, it's easy to.
Put a scooter corral in the parking lot, it's 3 blocks away.
I think one of the problems that some of the neighbors may have is if it changes there, they're gonna be parking on the side streets. So you're gonna have people parking on Brevard, you're gonna have people parking on Fielding, you're gonna have, and so that's gonna get the neighbors very upset. I certainly would be if I lived there. So I haven't thought about it that way, because there's not a place to park.
I mean, that was the city took the approach of we're gonna open up new parking on Magnolia, and that would be like an even exchange of.
But it wouldn't be an even exchange if you live on Brevard and you live on Fielding.
Correct, it's not, it's a couple blocks away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference.
And the streets in Hyde Park are already so narrow that it's a real pain.
I wonder what the crashes are. Maybe you guys run the crashes, maybe they give us some support.
I don't think you're gonna find much justification for crashes there. I haven't ran the crash personally, but just looking. Yeah, speeds of the roadway,
It's such a short segment and there's a traffic light and it's big short.
Yeah.
You're gonna be surprised if there was crash evidence to support it.
Yeah.
There was a crash at the crosswalk, but that's on Bay Shore.
Yeah, at the end, it'll be decided politically, so, yeah, if we wanna.
would say it's up to you.
Right.
Just thinking of the association.
Yeah, I mean, if someone else wants to make a motion of support for it, then I'm fine with it. Yeah.
This is Jim Sharp. I move that we send the city of Tampa a letter or send a note to the TPO recommending that the bike lanes be preserved on the segment of Swan from Bay Shore to the intersection of South Boulevard.
This is Dave, so I second that motion.
Tim, I'd recommend that you abstain from this.
I will absolutely abstain from the voting.
Let the record
Yes,
show.
thank you. Stuff like that's this past week, so. All right, Gail, did you get that?
I got most of it. The question is this supposed to go to the TPO board or to city council?
Probably city council.
City council.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm abstaining from the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, please say aye. All right, hearing no opposition, the motion passes. I guess, Ben, it's on you now. So. All right. Letter of support, so that sounds good. All right, well, yeah, thanks, everyone. I appreciate that. I'll definitely, you'll hear what comes of it. Yeah.
I'm still going to write to the city council.
Oh, okay, yeah, that'd be great too. All right, well, that's it for the meeting, by the way, so we'll go ahead and adjourn. And thank you, everyone, for participating.
This is, I really appreciate the fact that we got to deal with